There's no food here, you fuckers. It's an empty cartridge. Get the fuck guy.
That's hungry. Be hungry for flesh. Oh.
Hope you're doing well, Rika.
A little bit of that. Well, actually, I was meaning to ask, I'm assuming because the whole thing with Bird and moving, he just wasn't able to play in the games anymore.
I'm sorry, what?
When it came to Bird not being in the games, I'm assuming because when he had to do with his move.
I don't know what you're referring to.
You know, Bird on Tuesday.
Yeah, he moved to Saturday.
Oh, he moved? See, that's the I didn't know that. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, he's been in. Well, we missed last week's because we were lacking a few people.
Yeah.
But Bird was in the first session of the new campaign.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, see, because I didn't know that. I know that EJ was in it, but no one told me, or at least I didn't. I don't watch Saturdays that much to know who's in it. But yeah, that's pretty cool though. I'm glad that he's still playing. I just assumed that due to the whole move, he wasn't able to keep playing D&D.
Yeah, I haven't been able to play D&D. Sucks.
Oh, man. I'm off tomorrow, so I'll be able to just kind of relax, get some stuff done. I need to finish the VOD for yesterday because I was watching it and I did some stuff and I fell asleep. I was like, oh. I think I stopped around when Zeno was having the conversation with the different colleges with the group. Yeah. And the person was being like, oh, what the fuck is in my room? Oh, the fuck is flying around my room? Ladybug, get out. Stop flying around in my room like you own the place.
It's a ladybug, Rico.
I don't care. Bugs that fly around in my room, I don't like it. Just grabbed them and threw them outside. Be gone. Shoosh.
Be gone!
What? What's wrong? I'm very confused. Jesus. It's like the year started, it's just been the year of the subathons on Twitch. Every other streamer I watch is doing the start of subathon at the beginning of this year. I mean, I guess that makes sense based on how beginning of the year.
Yeah, and you have to imagine with tax returns, it's a pretty good call to be like, hey, look, let's do subathons because people are having a new influx of money, hopefully.
No, yeah. I get it. Perfect. I get it. And like you said, that it definitely keeps them stable in the beginning parts of the year. I can easily. I mean, if it keeps going on, I'm not gonna complain because I kind of like it. Because people subbing so much, I just kind of get free subs on some of my favorite streamers. I'm like, hell yeah.
good? We ready to go?
Yep, just putting on the Lich Lounge scene.
Okay.
All right, and oh, hold on, let me quickly copy Rico's ID and assign it to one of the creatures. All right, Rico, you are a skeleton today.
Nice.
Yeah. Who else? Is it just Rico?
Yeah, no one else really responded to the announcement.
Oh.
Uh,
Yeah. This
Here.
is a good one though. Well, Rico, at least you get some This means we get to just really do some heavy focusing.
I think
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to help contribute into like conspiracy theory talk because I've never really been like one to like look up too many of them. Like when it comes to theory talk, it's usually about like One Piece. So this is a maniacal rainy night.
I mean, like it could be any type of conspiracy theory. It's not like it doesn't. It could be something from anime. It could be something from video games. It could be from real life. I'm not. Will you go?
Nani?
My
Oh.
dogs are sitting here wrestling, and I'm like, really? Like, can you not?
No, father, we must wrestle. All right. But you know what? Let's just go ahead and get started anyway. And welcome everyone back to another Wednesdays at the Lich Lounge, where this night's topic is going to be about conspiracy theories. Whether or not it's something as minor to something major to, well, I mean, I guess all conspiracy theories are major, but still, theories talk. Whether or not you believe them, find them interesting, or somewhere in between, we're here to talk about different ones that we've come across our paths. And so, as usual, I am one of your hosts, Xenolich.
And I, Maniacal, am your other host. I will probably be taking strong lead for tonight because this is more of a me thing. But Zeno, I'm pretty sure you got something in your back pocket. But before that, let us introduce our guest. Uh, guest, say hello.
Oh,
I
yeah. Oh,
like when I say
Rico?
hello, I
Yeah.
mean like introduce yourself. Come
Yeah,
on,
your
man.
introduction.
oh,
Man.
sorry. Sorry about that. I get. I'm not. No, I'm not sure. But hello, name is Rico. Usually go by Etheria. There's a group, and yeah, I'm just excited to talk and hear about conspiracy stuff.
Hell yeah. All right.
Yeah.
And so, Maniacal, let's go ahead and take it away. Let's hear what you got to bring to the table for this.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories because I came across one because of a dream I had. Now, let me tell you about this dream I had. It started with me just kind of just doing my thing. I think I was in the shop, I was working on something, and I noticed a tiny hole like on my knuckle. I was like, ah man, I must have nicked myself. But I looked at it and it wasn't like just a little scut. It was a hole. Like it was bored into my knuckle. And I was like, that's okay, that's concerning. But what really started to freak me out was the little white s- thing that was starting to pop out of the hole. I thought it can't be pussing. That can't be pus. It was a fragment of my bone, and it shot from the hole in my hand. And then more started shooting from the hole, and then and I was like, and I wasn't but what really freaked me out about this is I wasn't feeling any pain. Like was like, I should be feeling this. There are fragments of my bone being ripped from my finger and being shoved out of my body. It's when I looked inside the hole deeper, I noticed a silver metallic sheen that was moving. What was happening to me was nanites were breaking my bones apart, taking what they could as a resource from the bones, and then expelling what was left. My bonal structure was being hijacked by nanites.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And so, like, they would break my bones, replace my bones with them. So basically, by the time they were done, my bones were all nanites. Like, my organs, humanoid, muscles, structure, everything. It was just the bones that were nanites. And so I looked into this, and what it is known as a nanite infection. Now, it's not to the extreme of what my dream was, but I did learn that nanite infection is an actual thing it's an actual conspiracy theory that people can be infected with nanites that could possibly, track you, uh, kill you, or like even somewhat control your brain.
Well, are we talking like in the same way 5G towers conspiracy theories are?
Oh, I wait, the 5G conspiracy theory?
There's always some. There's always usually like a theory that goes around whether or not like we're being controlled through like some matter technology, and it happened to be like the big thing that when 5G towers are coming out, people assumed that it was because of 5G signal. I don't believe it a lick, but it was definitely one of those things that like popped up and it was memeified.
Look at you going like, I don't have much to contribute. Look, you contributing to the conversation. I'm so proud of you.
It's not really much, but yeah,
Okay.
it's
But no, that is. Go ahead.
no, go for it. Continue.
But no, that is essentially what it is. It's basically microscopic robots that can enter the body and like do things like they can control you and stuff like that. And who knows, 5G with because 5G was mentioned before the whole COVID thing. But then the second the COVID hit, 5G started exploding, but also the vaccine started coming out. So maybe that 5G signal is what's helping control the nanites that are within our bodies
What?
now. Yeah, but no, I just thought that was weird that I had a dream about my whole bonal structure being taken over by nanites to learn that there is talk about nanite uh, abductions possibly happening within, you know, every form of government. And that's why I was like, oh man, this is a really whacked conspiracy theory. Like,
My man out here gonna be like Senator Armstrong.
Oh my god.
yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, nano machines, son.
At this point,
I'll tell you I'll tell you right now, his his probably wasn't as invasive as mine because like mine was like basically the nanites. They're like, well, we need a place to hide here. There isn't much space. What do we do? Break his bones and we'll just
so
spit him out.
so what the idea? So to be sure, the idea is that like they somehow like get into like your bloodstream or your bones through some damage you take outside.
Yeah, or like, because I don't know how this like the nanite infection that I suffered from, I don't know if it was like alien or, it was governmental, but like, it was like I somehow got infected with these nanites and they started using my bone structures to break down and make more of them. And then, like, as they did that, they broke my bones apart and shoved them out of my body. And I'm not talking like just one arm. I mean, like, every bone in my body was cracked down, taken for its resources, and just shot out of my body.
Oh my god.
But they did it in a way to where I couldn't feel it. Like, they hijacked my nervous system to where my nervous system couldn't feel what they were doing.
Huh.
Okay.
I'm like trying to like I guess wrap my head around it because like I'm generally like especially when it comes to like most theories, I'm generally usually very what's the word for? I disregard a lot. I disregard a lot of theories. So for me, it's usually one of those things where I'm like, oh, that was interesting. That's an interesting point of view, or that's an interesting way of looking at it. So to hear this is like more than anything, my brain just went to create creative storytelling mode, and now probably another campaign idea. So it sounds really cool to me. But I mean, you know,
Yeah,
I myself am just generally not. I am a very hard sell when it comes to conspiracies.
like I'm not here to sell on because I just
Oh
thought
yeah,
it was weird that I had a dream. I didn't even know about nanite infection until this dream, and I was like, man, I wonder what. I was like, I wonder what nanite. Because I was like curious, like, what have we made in advance of nanite technology? I was like, I kind of never want that to ever happen to me. And that's when I learned about nanite infection. I was like, wow, we've made real no advancements in nanite technology, but there's people that think we do.
there's all types of like. It really is crazy how far our technology has advanced, and there's a lot of stuff that's like under the surface of what multimedia gets, that it's out there. Like, I think this isn't a theory, but this is a tangent based off of the advanced technology thing for the nanites. Did you know that there is a type of like helmet that you can wear, or not a helmet, but like kind of like a wire mesh around your head that can take signals from your brain and immediately input that into a computer. So there have been like this is from years ago, so there's probably even further advancements than what it is now. But the idea of like doing this, and like they had the tester play a real time strategy game, a game where you have to actively be thinking about what to do next. And so whenever they thought about something, the computer would take actions that they would think and perform them accordingly, because they have that technology to receive brain signals and input them into computer code.
You mean like Professor
Yep.
Xavier?
And it's even crazier because I remember at the time that I was looking into this. This is when I was just getting into like the VR world, because imagine like at one point in the future where you can integrate that and those two technologies together, and you essentially have a sort of online helmet,
That would be kind of cool.
right?
Yeah.
How about you, Rico? What do you got to bring to the table?
Hmm. Let's see, when it comes to conspiracy. I mean, when it comes to, I don't think I have an idea of one particular. It was just like more of just the idea of conspiracy theories and how it's very interesting to me, because like I feel like they come from both places of understanding of, like, because they are having real life situations of things like this existing, and the fact that I don't know. I guess it's just I guess the byproduct of that is, because we now know as human beings that there have been things like this throughout history. There's always that speculation of why do certain things happen in our society. Is it just because it's the way that we built it, or is it because of these shadowy stuff? Like the Illuminati, for example. They have that one, and just any kind of things. And again, they don't. So I think a lot of people like to think of just big ones, but um Maniacal said with the nano machine thing, like I feel like that's not well known, and because people of course know about it, but it's not like blown up, because either for some people it sounds nonsensical, or I don't know, maybe it just sounds so boring. Because that's the thing, it's like anything. I feel like some conspiracy theories come from the form of, if certain things are are coincidence and they coincide with each other well enough, it can seem believable. And others are kind of like, people have played it up so much that it's like, well, if enough people are talking about this, then it must be a real thing.
Yeah.
The way this is talked about, it very much reminds me of like, how do I put this? These two things generally coincide with each other when one is brought up, but like very very occult like things. Like for example, I remember one of the biggest things as to like how religion, at least for some cultures, was is that they needed a way to explain phenomena that they couldn't do before. And
Yeah.
so by utilizing the logic that they had then, there was these ways to explain how deities were things that watched over us, and that's where this stuff comes from. And enough people that say it becomes an entire faith in it, and a belief in it. So very
Yeah.
similar to that is, there are like groups of people who like you said, Maniacal, who probably are fully invested into the nanite theory. Just as for me, there's
Yeah, totally.
there's people who have investments into other theories out there as well. You know,
Yeah.
5G towers, whatever it is. It's crazy to think that, or like I think like okay, this is in no way do I support this at all. I only bring this up because of the topic at hand. The people who believe in flat Earth theory, it is
I knew
astounding.
that was gonna.
It is
Yeah.
astounding how many people back that theory, despite for me like evidence proving otherwise.
Yeah, like evidence proof. My favorite, though, flat earthers are crazy and insane. But one that I actually kind of put some thought into was someone was like, "Oh, we're just on the back of a tortoise shell," and I was like, "Yeah, but that would still be a flat Earth." And he's like, "No, no, no, a tortoise shell isn't flat." And then he was talking about how it has it. It would explain for like the curvature and stuff, and I was like, "Oh my god." We're on the back of a like in no way do I actually believe we're on the back of a but the way he said it and the way he presented it made way more sense than a flat earther tried to explain like the earth is flat. The way he explained the tortoise shell, I was like, I could believe that. I could,
So what?
but I
So,
don't.
so
You
what
know,
you're telling me? This is like that one elephant from One Piece. We're just on what's it
oh,
called again? The
Zanisha.
uh yeah, Zanisha. Yes.
There's a lot of stuff support. There's a lot of stuff that goes towards that, and it's not a matter of supporting, but that's also a thing that's from like mythology and religion as well. To get into
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
there's gonna be a lot of crossover with these two topics at hand. But
Oh,
here's an interesting.
so
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was say here's an interesting one as well. That it I don't I've yet to hear how this one connects to religion, but there's a theory about that the fact that people outside of your immediate interactions do not exist until your peripherals or your vision goes in that direction, or until you interact with such a thing. Like it's a theory that goes along the lines of everything in the known universe does not exist until you come into contact with the idea of it. That
Oh,
people that it's really weird. This is a super narcissistic theory in itself, but that people's lives are not. How can you prove people's lives until you see it? But even seeing it is still a matter of bringing it into existence for your own life. It's a really weird theory, and I had to like look into it. But it's like it's a super narcissistic theory that is just for me it's just an absolute load of crap. But it was nonetheless. I think more what makes me more interested in conspiracy theories is the number of people that actually have like belief in them more than the theory itself.
right. Well, see,
Sounds
I
like it.
like that. I like that theory about how like the universe doesn't exist until you look at it. And I was like, okay, no, it does exist. Because I was talking with someone about this, and they're like, I was like, no, it does exist, but you're all right. For a split moment, it doesn't exist because you can't see it. For all you know, the matrix that we're in isn't rendering what's behind you because you can't see it. So to save on its processing power, it doesn't render what's behind you until you turn around.
Yeah. That reminds me of the concept of like when someone is like rendering like a map in a game, you don't really see the full game until like your eyes come in contact with the horizon.
Yeah. Or based on, because like how it works is a game will only render based on how you look at it. Wherever the camera is pointing, that's where it starts to render. I mean, like not every game, like open world games, like Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, Halo Infinite, Skyrim. All of that is pre-rendered, and then only chunks of it render. But who's to say like the matrix doesn't swap between how it renders depending on how many people are within a certain area of the matrix. By the way, I do not believe in the matrix. That is just another conspiracy theory that was brought up by the movie. Actually, that that raises a question. What came first, the conspiracy theory or the movie?
I'm sorry. I was like trying to like think about like the different things, but usually it's like the theory has to come in before the movie because the movie is like usually like directed and come in, and an idea comes to it before the movie.
I don't know, yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things where it's like,
But what I'm saying is like, was the conspiracy like was there already a cult following of people believing we were in a simulation, or did that cult following happen because of the movie?
I see what you're saying. So also, I had looked into the theory that I was talking about, and it's not just a theory, but it's also like what's for. There's an entire Wikipedia article dictating how this theory gets broken down, but it's called solipsism, from the Latin adjectives sol, meaning for to be alone, and the Latin pronoun isp, meaning self. The ideology that only one's own mind is sure to exist. Solipsists contend that knowledge of anything outside one's own mind is unsure, hence there is no such thing as objective truth, and nothing about the external world and its workings can actually be known. In simple and short, reality doesn't exist until you interact with it.
I
makes
feel
sense.
like that is bullshit.
It's here, hold on. It breaks down into like the different varieties of it, such as metaphysical, epistemological, and methodological. Like the metaphysical is a variety based on the philosophy of subjective idealism. Metaphysical solipsis. Yeah, I'm gonna butcher this for multiple times. Maintain that the self is the only existing reality, and that all other realities, including the external world and other persons, are representations of that self and have no independent existence. There are several versions of metaphysical solipsism, such as Casper's endogeneric prestigum, in which other people are conscious, but their existences simply are not present. It's
Hmm.
it's an extremely strange theory that has a good amount of people who believe this, and even people from history itself who put further thought into this theory and this idealism.
Okay.
Wow, yeah, there's an entire philosophy behind this too.
Yes.
But here, so what else are we thinking of when it comes to like theories that we've heard of or interacted with?
Yeah. Well,
If,
yeah. Well, like I was saying before, so theories, urban legends, and conspiracy theories, as well as mythology and religion, they all share they're all like the same side of one dice, I guess.
I was gonna say like, because
Yeah.
I'm assuming, I was gonna say like when it comes to theories and all that, I'd say some people, even whether or not they believe in it, I think believing it definitely is a part of it. But I feel like part of why some people believe in it is not necessarily that is the defined truth. It's just that kind of like religion, it is their own idea of what how reality works. So it doesn't have to be definitive, like, oh, this is the one true theory. It's like, no, this is my theory on how I think our society or think certain aspects of our society work. And it just, it keeps me from going insane.
Yeah. But that's what I like about urban legends, conspiracy theories, is they're all like, what I like about them is there is no evidence, but they allow you to just sit there and go, wow, there is. Because it's like some of the stuff that you hear for urban legends, conspiracy theories, like it's out there shit. It's really like mind,
Mind-boggling.
scratching. Yeah, mind boggling, mind scratching. So, like, for example, like here's an urban legend. There's also a conspiracy theory. Uh, has Twitch put any restrictions on talking about anything Russian?
Tread the line carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Treading the line between reality and just playing
it's
into
just like
crazy nonsense.
this is an urban legend that took place in the Eastern European countries from 1960 to 1970. So, and it was mostly in Russia. So, anyways, there's the urban legend that takes place in that country is about a black Volga, Volga, Volga.
Okay.
And
I
it's
knew
about,
that.
yeah. And the urban legend goes, if you were to spot this vehicle, someone within your neighborhood, and I'm butchering what I know about this, but someone within your neighborhood, if you saw this black Volga within your neighborhood driving around, someone within your neighborhood would disappear. And the reason why this urban legend started to uh get traction is that when these black Volgas would appear in neighborhoods, people would,
Mhm.
and a lot of people would, associate it with like KGB, Russian Tsar, things like that. Like, kind of like government conspiracies for us, but in Russia. And it was just so baffling to me. And what I really liked about this urban legend was that it was just such a big coincidence that these cars would show up and then someone would disappear. And these weren't like, relatively uh they were popular cars, but they were only really within government official hands. So it was like a coincidence of government officials driving this really, mysterious looking car and then people disappearing. It's like it's an urban legend. Basically it started off as a conspiracy theory and evolved into an urban legend to where you tell of the black Volga, like, if you see the black Volga, hide until morning or something like that, which is something I like about, which is what I like about these kind of conspiracy theories. They went from being a conspiracy theory to like an urban legend that, is like a ghost story to tell kids, you know, like, in the future, but there's the possibility of it becoming a conspiracy theory again, because that's what happened with the flat Earth thing, or the back of a tortoise shell. You know, they were just stories, and then they became a conspiracy theory, and then they became a cult following, and you're like, wow, that took a huge turn. And that's why I like to talk about conspiracy theories, or like theories in general, because like they just lead to really crazy shit. Like, what's like,
You know, it kind of reminds me of like I don't know why my brain made this connection, but it kind of takes me to the idea that like that the SCP Foundation is a real thing, and they utilize the internet and like games and stuff to hide their actual existence by memifying it.
exactly. Look, that's some like, it's kind of like how Area 51, when they were test flying their spy plane, they just went along with someone who thought it was aliens, and they're like, yes, yes, that is aliens. It is in fact aliens. That is what it is. We are housing aliens at Area 51. That is what Area 51 is. Because when Area 51 came to be, it was during the Cold War, and they were using the area to test their spy plane, the U-2, but they were like, how do we keep this secret? And some guy came and handed their cover story to them on a platter going like, I've been watching the base. Like, I've been seeing these weird lights. I think it's aliens. And the guy who was in charge of, like, you know, and I'm probably butchering the history of this, but the guy who was in charge of, like, media and, like, covering up Area 51 just was like, yeah, that's it. Exactly. You nailed it, bucko. But don't tell anyone. But don't tell anyone that it's aliens. And then it went nuts.
Right? It's the whole like, is there aliens? We will answer everything but this question. Oh, it's the one that they avoid. Obviously, it's that one.
Yeah. But and what and then the conspiracy theory I love nowadays is like aliens exist, but they're not at Area 51. You know,
Oh, what? You gonna give me the Area 52?
no, they're not anywhere near it. They're not in Nevada. You don't keep aliens in Nevada. It's too dry.
All right. Well, hit me with it.
You keep them in Canada. You know, they're used to
Entertain this thought more.
you keep aliens somewhere cold because they're used to the cold, unforgiving sections of space. Best place, Canada. But you can't let. But in Canada, best place to keep aliens. So much remote area, so much places to have a secret base that you just wouldn't think. Also, you could test fly all sorts of shit in Canada. No one's really gonna know.
Is that why some Canadians are nice? They're just aliens that have. They feel like if they're nice enough, people just leave them alone.
You know, I wasn't even thinking about Rico, but that would make a lot of sense. No human is that nice.
I'm
Canadians are
gonna
aliens.
I'm gonna take that away from this. There are plenty of nice people that I know that aren't aliens.
No,
As far
no,
as
I
you
get
know.
that.
Don't.
No, but see, that's what I mean though. Like sometimes all it takes is that one little suggestion to like an
Exactly.
existing
That was
theory,
my.
or or just an idea, just a simple idea, and it can literally turn from like, oh, this is just a nice little thought experiment to, oh my God, this is actually possibly something that can break society if people actually found out if it was real.
Exactly. You see, Rico knew where I was going with that whole Canadian shtick.
Yeah.
But you tell
I
the
know, yeah.
right people something
Hmm.
like that, they will start digging and they will start finding evidence that isn't even there, but they will do it.
I mean, if I had to say the best example for like certain conspiracy theories, it's like take someone, and it is, I know it's become more of a more recent term in recent years. Take someone who is basically on copium and increase their copium supply to the maximum amount. And it never, like their doctor says, okay, you've had enough copium. It's like, fine, I'll make my own copium. And it's like moonshine, it's really off brand, but they still take it. And now they're seeing and hearing things that they shouldn't if it was regulated copium. That's what's happening.
Whoa, copium. I thought that was just a meme.
Yeah. But no, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's very interesting just thinking of like how certain theories just make, because again, I feel like some theories again are just really elaborate thought experiments. Because again, I feel like some people genuinely don't believe it, but they're just like, hey, if this actually happened and I just so happen to be right, hey, you know what? I guess I gotta win. If not, I don't care if people say that I'm wrong. I'm just having fun.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, so if we go back to flat earthers, and I feel bad for picking on these guys, but they, the reason why the concept of the earth is flat is because I can't remember what the actual how people actually thought.
Wasn't this like way before even them though? Wasn't it? Because like
It was
it
way
it was
before
all the
them.
way back to the it was back to when I think they were trying to prove that the Earth was flat way back in human history.
Like, no, like there was a time, like I don't think humans actually thought the world was flat. Like before even Columbus went to before Columbus, circumnavigated the globe, everyone knew the world was round.
I
Where flat Earth came
Mm.
from, I'm not sure.
No, hold on. It is supposed to be a thing like in history that it was like a thing where people legitimately back then thought that the Earth was flat. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be it's an old taught thing that was until I believe it was Aristotle. It was one of those philosopher type people who noted like the way it was through the stars that they were able to understand that we are orbiting, we are spinning, and
Mm.
for something flat to be spinning would not make sense as much as something that is of a round nature, like a ball or
Oh
of a
no,
sphere.
definitely.
And so
Most definitely.
it's a really old, like it goes goes well before like Columbus's days, where
Yeah.
there were like people who thought that the Earth was flat, but
It,
that was a
it was
thing that had
flat
been bit by bit,
around for a while.
more and more information was applied to it, and more questions were
Mm.
asked. And that's one of the things about, obviously human nature. We keep asking questions and we keep trying to find answers to those questions, whether or not it's a theory or not.
Yeah.
Technically, everything's a theory until proven right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And
is
that
So,
very true.
and at one
according to
point you
my
can
mom,
that's what.
when humans first started thinking the world was flat, it was because they couldn't see it round off.
Mhm.
So they just
Oh
believed.
yeah, the horizon.
But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, by the time we got to Columbus, everyone knew the world was round.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, by
why
that time.
in the Columbus story the flat Earth thing was brought up confuses me.
Mm.
But
I
I
feel
think
like
that.
some people.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say. I feel like some people, because you know how it is, like especially in human history, like I guess when governmental bodies try and like control certain parts of like their country, they try and like in order to to justify why they are right and why they are the de facto ruler of a country, they want to disprove other things in the world in order to get people's control. And I feel that's why it is sometimes that they'll make up these lies like, oh, this wasn't real, or all that it's actually this way. And it's like, because I feel like that's what happened. I feel like maybe an example of like why people think the earth is flat again now is because I don't know, someone probably just thought of like the random question, hey, what if people who are actually saying the earth was round, what if it was just a way to silence the real people that knew that it was flat but they didn't want them to find out? And then somehow that snowballed into this giant whole fucking thing about people. Oh, sorry, my language. But like, oh yeah, look at that. It's actually this wicked. Like they feel like they awakened ones. It's like we actually know the truth and we're trying to spread the message type stuff.
Awakened ones.
Yeah.
I always love how people are like, I've done it. I've become woke. My third eye is opened. I now understand the
Exactly.
truth.
No,
Like,
you don't know
Hmm.
shit. In fact, you don't even know history. My favorite, there's a Napoleon Bonaparte saying that I actually like, and it was, "History is nothing but fiction that we agreed is fact."
Ooh.
And I was like, "Damn, that short motherfucker speaking, that short motherfucker speaking truth on that one though."
Mm.
Because, like, yeah, most history is true, but like a good chunk of history for like certain things merely is fiction that we have agreed to be fact.
well, I mean, because what a lot. Let's not forget this as well. There's also a very infamous term that history is written by the victors.
Yeah.
Yes.
That only those who win truly write history because they're the ones who lived, and so they will tell you their
Mm.
side of the story. There is still evidence that will, like, as we keep going through, new forms of history come out with different perspectives to explain and allow people to compare and realize, okay, comparing one perspective to the other, there are certain things that definitely did happen. But
Mhm.
you know, what is one man's evil to another man's neutral? There's so many different ways that history is written that in order to really look, you have to look at it objectively rather than through the eyes of someone who is writing on behalf of how good their country is. You know?
Right. Because another thing about history is like a lot of people like to throw this at me like, oh, you can't say all history is, uh, f- fiction. You're like, there's written documentation. There's even video documentation. I'm like, motherfucker, if you do not think shit can be doctored, changed, or altered in some way, you are a blind son of a bitch. Now, that's not saying that there's some that every historical evidence is doctored. Like people who try to prove the moon landing's fake. That is one conspiracy theory right there. Moon landing that they say it is doctored footage, and a lot of people are saying. Now, I play kind of a middle ground when it comes to that one. Like, I know we went to space. Like, there's so many eyewitnesses and stuff like that who watched it through telescopes and watched the rocket leave and come back. Like there's a lot of evidence that proves that it happened. But the way they explain that it couldn't have happened, like with like cameras and stuff like that, people saying like, oh yeah, no, they didn't have the technology for that back then. When fucking who was it? It was what's the name of the camera company that had a big market on film? They
There's a few that come to mind, like Nikon, Canon.
not Nikon. Started with a K.
Oh, I think I know the name. Hold on, let me find it.
Yeah, who? I think it was them. Or was it Polaroid? That was a form. But there was I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of those companies. They had digital cameras made before, you know, digital cameras were being sold. And they had that shit made, but they didn't want to sell it because they thought it would affect their film sales. So, like, if you think that companies and shit like that didn't have technology made during the era of the moon landing and just weren't using it or selling it, you are one of the blind motherfuckers.
Oh, here we go.
You're what?
Side note, I'm looking up and just looking at moon landing camera. It explains that the Apollo 11 carried a number of cameras for collecting data and recording various aspects of their mission, including one 70mm Hasselblad electric camera.
Exactly.
Let's see. I'm trying to take a look, and a television camera. So it's explaining the different cameras that are on board. One of which was the Hasselblad L Data camera, the Hasselblad electric camera, two 70mm lunar surface wide super wide angle cameras, two Maurer data acquisition cameras, and one 35mm surface close up stereoscopic camera, and a television camera.
Exactly. They had. So basically, like, when they talk about the theory, a lot of people like to point out how uh, the moon landing was faked because they did this and this. But then there are people who will go and say like, ah, nah, they couldn't have done that. They didn't have the knowledge of that. They couldn't have done that. And I'm like, you can't sit there and say that back then there wasn't that kind of technology. Like they couldn't have faked it. Like I know they didn't. Like I know they didn't fake the moon landing. But what I'm saying is you can't sit there and say that they couldn't when it is a proven fact that companies and government never really show how technological we are evolved until it is beneficial to them. So they could have faked the moon landing. I just don't think they did. But I believe they were capable of it. And that's my own conspiracy theory of they had the capability, but they realized, nah, that shit ain't epic enough. We need to actually go to the moon. Because there is no bigger fuck you in a space race than actually landing on the moon. Because that's what I like to believe. Because that's what the space race was who could say "fuck you" the best. That's why I love the space race. It was just a bunch of scientists going like, "Oh, you put a dog into the space? Well, guess what? We put a monkey. What's you balls in your court, fucko? What are you gonna do? Oh shit, they sent a man into space. What do we do? Let's send a space station. We sent a space station already. Uh, fuck it. Let's land a fucker on the moon. Let's see you do that, fucker."
Oh my god. This is fucking crazy.
You know, because like, could you just imagine like seeing that and you're just like, fuck, what do we do now? We can't just land a man on the moon. They've already done that. That doesn't prove anything. And that's how we won. We won because they're like, we can't think of anything. We can't think of anything else. We could send a satellite past the moon. We could do that, but that's not as epic. That's not as cool.
I mean, there's also I think it's one of those things where just it really is crazy how these theories like keep on going. And now for some reason you have me thinking like, because my brain did that thing where it connects one thing to another, and it has me now going on the Schrodinger's cat thing.
Oh yeah, that one's an interesting one.
That one's always just a morbid theory to me.
Yeah.
I don't like it too much.
Yeah. But I like how it can contain to things like it's Schrodinger's text message. Either she dumped you or she didn't, but you won't know until you look at the text, fucko.
Yeah.
Like, or it's like she either said yes or she said no, but you gotta open the letter to find out. Or Schrodinger's Elden Ring. Either it's the way you think it's gonna be, or it's completely different, but you won't know until you play.
I think that's generally like I love how like there's theories that can be more universal than others. Hence, you know, hence Schrodinger's theory alone, how you have things that it is both yes and no, but you won't know until it is asked, type of deal.
Yeah.
And I love theories that are like pertain to more general stuff rather than like, you know, what is a conspiracy theory, because conspiracy theories to me at least, like, how do I put it, I feel like it's along the lines of like I'm asking a question based off of what preconceived notions rather than theories that can apply to just about everyday things. Maybe I'm also like wording this a little weird. I don't know if I'm coming across like getting the message right, but I just like, and maybe that's why I'm also like very disregarding of like most conspiracy theories, because most of them usually pertain to like a specific thing rather than like something that can affect so many different decision making options.
Yeah. Well, and that's because that would be like that's the difference between conspiracy theory and an actual theory. A theory is just like a scientific theory that could be answered in many different ways through different methods of scientific deduction. As a conspiracy theory is something that can't really get evidence and only pertains to like one thing. So it's like a theory about, like, it's more of a theory about a certain location or a certain person or something like that. As a scientific theory like Schrodinger's cat, it's like something that pertains to life, which is like, you know, in a way that could be it. And the thing is you could switch a theory and a conspiracy theory anytime. Like Schrodinger's cat, like, this is just a conspiracy theory. Of course the cat's dead. It's in a box with no holes. Of course it's dead. You're crazy for thinking it could even be alive. What do you mean there's a yes, no, it's dead. You know, it's based on how you look at it. And, you know, to some people, a conspiracy theory isn't a conspiracy theory. It's just a theory. But to the rest of us, yeah, you're conspiratizing that your theory is correct.
You know.
You know.
Quick little side tangent. I literally had to hold back interrupting him by like, it's just a theory. Game theory.
No, I've been trying to.
watching.
Dude, I've been holding back that fucking phrase like all the entire time we were talking, because I was like, I was gonna save it for the end.
Well, there you go. That's what it is for
that's
you.
nice.
Yeah, we still have 5 minutes left.
We do. What do you guys? Well, here, let's. What is by far probably the theory that you would lend your ear to the most?
I was gonna ask what's the craziest conspiracy theory, but I like yours better.
The one to lend to the most.
Like, which one would you be willing to go? Like, you know what? Yeah, no, I could believe that. Like, no, I could get on board with that.
I mean, I definitely. Again, it's just more like the idea of it, but I definitely do believe in, maybe there are certain groups in the world that, even though we call them by the names that we quote unquote found out about, I feel like secret groups aren't just like one big group, but a big group divided into a lot of smaller groups as to take them, get the scent off of them. So even if one is technically caught, it doesn't matter because they named themselves something else. You know what I mean?
It's like a branch organization to where they're under. It's just a bunch of branch organizations under one big umbrella. So
Exactly. It's kind of like,
one
yeah, kind of like Anonymous. Like technically, Anonymous exists, but you will never truly get everyone of Anonymous because they won't really call themselves Anonymous.
Anonymous is just a fucking group that is controlled by the government, but the government doesn't want you to know they're controlled by the government because they use Anonymous to make the government to make it look like there's people out there fighting against the government. It's basically to keep up morale. Anonymous is a scam.
Okay.
Hey,
And that is my contribution to Anonymous to help
right.
them stay in the shadows.
There's
Well, well, if we don't hear
there's a
from
theory
Xeno,
that
we know what happened.
right. There's a theory that I would the theory that I would probably lend my ear to the most, primarily just because of like, how do I put it? It's so absurd. I would love to see more information about it. And what I mean like lend my ear is like, by no means like you've heard me throughout this entire thing. I still have a huge disregard to like almost every conspiracy theory out there. But the one that I would love to hear like a believer like give me the entire like rundown of like why this theory exists to them is probably the birds aren't real theory. That is such a out like it's such a
Love that
it's
one.
it is a ridiculously out there theory that to me I can't even understand where it came from. So I would love to like listen to someone who tells me this just so I can like get into like so that's what you're going with. Interesting.
In that case, Zeno, let me ask you: have you ever gone long periods without seeing a bird? Like, I'm asking, have you gone like maybe
No.
days
No.
without seeing a bird?
No. Where I live, we almost always hear and see birds.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that question is more for the people that were like when they were first sending out the birds. Like, there'd be days where you just didn't see birds, but nowadays they just like swap birds.
Oh my
'Cause you
god.
never see the same. Like, I could get it. Okay, but like the one that I would lend my ear to, and by no means would I actually ever believe this or anything. Really, I have to say is my brain, flat earthers. That is the one I like to listen to. Like, I think I've heard a lot, but I know there is more out there, and it just fascinates me with the amount of effort they go through to try and prove the earth is flat, and they do some of the most outlandish shit. I'm just like, you sir have way too much time on your hands, but you fascinate the fuck out of me, and I gotta hear more.
Right?
Like, you
See
it's
it's a fascination we get when we listen to these theories and such.
like to a point where I'm like, I want, I listened with the intent, like, I want you to convert me. I want you to be able to say some shit that converts me, but they never can because I just can't accept half the shit they say. Like, I feel like me and Zeno if we were hanging out together and we heard someone say the birds aren't real, me and him would sit that man down and we'd be like, "Can we buy you a coffee? Can we get you lunch? Just sit here and please just talk. Tell us everything. We want to know. Please wake us." And we wouldn't be woke, but goddamn would we leave entertained as fuck.
Yeah.
We would
I,
leave.
I would 100% be down. Like as it is, I already have a huge I think my love of listening to people grew from my patience that I've grown around people. Where I've had the patience to listen to so much bullcrap, I'm down to like listen to so much more.
Yeah, because sometimes, like, there's some people I can't stand listening to. It's like I just want them to shut up. But then there will come times, like especially where I work, because I work at a truck stop. I get a lot of weirdos, and sometimes I'm like, just shut up. But sometimes someone will come by and say something, and I'll be like, please continue. I'm gonna take my break. I'm gonna give you my 30-minute break for you to tell me more. They're rare,
Yeah.
but they do show up.
Yes.
Like one of the most outlandish things I heard working at a truck stop was someone, like, I wasn't even talking to this person. They're like, "Oh yeah, it was weird. I was driving, and suddenly this shadow, this like white gigantic hunchback thing ran across the road. It was weird." And I just remembered asking him, like, "What did you think that was?" And he's like, "I think it was a Wendigo." And I was like,
Tell me more.
"Please, tell me more." I was
Enlighten
like,
me.
"Enlighten me."
It's the Megan. Interesting.
Yeah. I was
Go
like,
on.
Excuse me, sir. I couldn't help over here. What did you say?" "Ah, yes. Tell me more. I'm intrigued." Uh,
Well,
but
I definitely think that is probably because I'm beginning to like get my head a little spinning from this stuff.
yeah,
I think this is a
we gotta
good
go
place to call
research
it.
birds.
Yeah, right. And so
We gotta.
that is we're gonna go ahead and give it a call here, everyone. Thank you everyone so much for joining in. It's been a pleasure having you all join us for today's Lich Lounge. If you guys enjoyed today's content and want to support what we do, feel free to follow and subscribe on Twitch. For any stream notifications, possible chances to participate in even content polls, follow the Twitter, check out the TikTok, join the Undead Legion Discord where you can hang out with all of us and maybe even go over more theories. And of course, for any VODs such as today's episode, check out the Lich YouTube channel. Take it away, Maniacal.
Yeah, and please do join the Discord. It is a very welcoming place, and we'd all like to hear from you. You might even show up here, and that will be it for me. So good night, everybody.
Good night.